I'm Zeb Boykin here with Miss Barbara Arthur. She is running for Tom Rice's seat, District 7 for congressional. How are we doing today, Miss
I'm
Barbara?
well. Thank you for having me, Zeb.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. Glad to have a good conversation with you. I think we have planned today, and I guess we could get started in what got you to run in the first place.
I appreciate you asking me that question. When I saw what was happening in 2020 after the election, and I noticed a lot of communist tactics being used by the media on American citizens, and then especially after January 6th and the intimidation that was being used, I really became very concerned because it was plain for me to see that it was communist tactics. A lot of Americans were looking and wondering what is going on in our country right now, and many people were just saying, this is socialism. This is socialism, and I could just plainly see that it's communism because I was born in communist Cuba. I'm familiar with communist tactics, although I was very young when I left the country. I was only 5 years old. It impacted our lives forever because when my dad was able to leave the country with 3 children, my mother and 3 other kids were forced to stay behind for 23 years. My family was greatly affected by communism. So I became hyper sensitive, if you will, or hyper vigilant towards it. And I immediately picked it up and I kept telling my husband, I said, Warren, this is communism. This is communism. Yeah. And my husband was busy with our business and really was not paying much attention. And I'm thinking, well, is this what's going on in America today? And also, I know my father's voice. I am a Christian, and I know his voice. And I've lived my life set apart to know him. But during this time, I wanted to know what was going on in America, so I started doing a lot of research. And I found how deep China is involved in America, how deep they really are. And I just could not believe it, that most people don't even know. Yeah. The executive orders that President Trump enacted to protect us from China, and the day that Biden got in there, the very day, he rescinded them. And the burning question was why? Why, if these executive orders were enacted for national security reasons, why would he take them out, you know? Yeah. Power grids, Confucius schools, exchange, stock exchange. And I could not understand. And so I submitted, if you will, to run in March of last year. And I literally wore out a pair of Dansko sandals, which are nurses' sandals, just grabbing a hold of every American citizen that I possibly could and saying, look, this is communism, and God is our only hope. He's the only one who's going to get us out of the mess we're in.
Yes, ma'am, I do think so. I think we definitely need a revival in America.
Oh.
It's either that way or it's 100% the other way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, the communism, it's been a long time coming. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's definitely gradual. And like I said, it's going to take a revival to get there. You know, you said you spent some time in Cuba, or you're from Cuba rather, and then, right. You know, the family separated for a good little while. How else has that affected you? You know, not having a nuclear family together in one area.
Well, I just saw what it did to my dad. It destroyed him personally. His whole family was split in half. Not only he was allowed to come with 3 children, and my mom was forced to stay behind with 3. So our family was, completely split in half. But then I saw what it did to my siblings also. My brother, he just went the wrong way in life with drugs and whatnot. And I know that if he had the nourishment of a mother and the stability of a nuclear family at home, mom right. and dad, that would not have happened. It also, like I said, it made me hyper vigilant. That whole experience of being torn away from my mom made me very alert to especially communism. You know, when I was, I might have been 3 or 4 years old. I remember my dad coming home in the middle of the night with a black bag. And my mother woke us up in the middle of the night. I asked her as an adult, why did you do that? And she said, Barbara, you had not eaten all day. And she wanted us to have something to eat. Personally, if a child's sleeping, I'd let him sleep, but she felt it was important. But what I saw was my dad with a black bag. He gave that bag a couple shakes and food fell on the table, canned foods. And as a young child, maybe 3 or 4 years old, I cried out, look, food. And both my parents were at me at the same time. Hush, girl, the neighbors will hear you. CDRs, Committee for the Defense of the Revolution. And so when I saw, you know, the FBI encouraging people to turn in their neighbors if they had too many cars in the parking lot or in the front of their house during Thanksgiving and back in 2020 or 2021, and when I could not believe that there were billboards with the FBI encouraging people to turn people in if they knew if they had gone to the January 6th event. That concerned me. That concerned me. CDRs, Committee for the Defense of the Revolution. Yeah. So I was very concerned.
Yeah, no, you know, nobody wants that,
no.
especially not in America.
Correct.
You know, how would you go about possibly introducing bills or being on a committee once you're in Congress? How would you go about preventing something like that, or even reversing some of the decisions that have been made?
Well, I think transparency is huge. Letting people know what's really happening. There are some committees, for instance, the Freedom Caucus, the House Freedom Caucus is a group that I would definitely want to join immediately, because I believe they're like-minded. I believe they're wanting to do things to help America. I believe they love America. They're not trying to destroy America or our Constitution, unlike the Progressive Caucus being one of them. And if God allows me to serve, one of the first things I would do, of course, along with a group, is to impeach Biden and Kamala Harris, first thing. And then I would like to introduce legislation that if anyone has ever had any membership or affiliation with any socialist or communist organization cannot be elected into our government. And no, that is not taking away their First Amendment. They're trying to take ours away. I think it's ridiculous when anybody stands up and says, oh, you know, this is their First Amendment. That's ridiculous. They're trying to destroy our country. They're trying to overthrow our Constitution. We have over 128 Democratic Socialists of America serving in elected office right now, and that's not including Bernie Sanders and Omar. I mean, I just don't see why we need to protect the rights of people who are trying to take our right and destroy our rights.
Yes, ma'am.
Personally.
That's right. A lot of times people stand on the First Amendment and stomp on it while screaming that they have it. It's
insane.
It's a little paradox there. But I guess, no, I think you're on the right page when it comes to communism. Like I said, it doesn't happen overnight. But I guess we can move into education. You know, where's your position on education, and do you have any plans to?
Yes, thank you for asking. I'm a homeschool parent, 15 years. I graduated my youngest child last year. And it was one of the hardest things, but one of the best things that I've ever done. And I believe government needs to stay out of our local schools. The federal government has no business telling us how we need to teach our children. So for me, what happened to the PTA, the Parent Teachers Association? Get the parents involved. Back again, for local government and state government, the federal government does not need to have its clause in our children. And you know that Build Back Broke bill that they wanted to pass, that they will separate and try to stuff it into something else. One of the things that they wanted, they had allocated $400 billion towards universal child care. That's wanting to get a hold of our 3- and 4-year-olds. Why? Why would the government want to grab a hold of our 3- and 4-year-olds? They're already messing up what we have right now.
Well, they want to, you know, like you said, if you follow the string of communism, they just want to indoctrinate them earlier.
That's it. That's exactly right. And we cannot permit that. You know, as a young adult, I asked my father twice, why did you permit our family to be separated for 23 years? Exasperated, he said, because I didn't want you indoctrinated. So my dad allowed us to suffer because he felt it was so important that we would not be indoctrinated by a communist regime. But here right now in America, it's happening in our schools. And parents are beginning to become aware, and I see what's happening, the big movement that's taking place. Well, it needs to happen here in South Carolina too. We cannot allow our children to be indoctrinated with CRT, with this government agenda, with soft propaganda, and then all this perversion. Because yes, it is perversion. Trying to tell a young child that he can be a girl or that she could be a boy is wrong. Is wrong. That's perversion. And I also feel that it's one of the highest forms of child abuse. And if anyone does that to a child, I believe there should be legal consequences. That it is just wrong. And you know what? People need to stand up and speak out and stop being so afraid. We need to remember that we're home of the free and of the brave. And we're losing both. We need to stand up and speak up for what is right.
Yeah, like you said,
especially for our kids.
I think there is a movement coming across America. You know, sometimes we're a little bit behind in small town Dillon here, but you know, it's inevitable. As the more the parents learn, the better they'll be with regard to standing up and understanding what's going on.
Absolutely.
You know, after education comes jobs. You know, whether they go to a tech school or a college or just go graduate high school and then move into the job world. How would we, or how would you propose, you know, building jobs? You know, the unemployment rate's pretty high right now. So
yeah,
that's a big issue for a lot of us.
It's the policies right now because of this administration. They're at war with the American people, the middle class, small businesses, our schools, our kids. They're at war with us. And the number one thing is to overthrow their policies, overturn their policies. As I've been campaigning, I've campaigned throughout the district feverishly. At first, it was telling everyone, look, communism is here. We need to wake up to the reality, and God is our only hope. But I'm talking to business owners. I've met a pharmacist in Loris just a few weeks ago, and he's very concerned. He says this administration is trying to choke the small pharmacies because we cannot compete with the larger pharmacies, and they're going to put them out of business. I was talking to a banker just this past weekend from Hemingway, and he said what used to take one sheet of paper is now taking 30 because they're regulating things so much. I've met a volunteer firefighter who owns a small business, and he said the tax incentives that we used to have, well, we don't have them anymore. They're choking our small businesses. I'm a small business owner. My husband and I own W.D. Arthur Insurance for 23 years. You know, we were affected by the pandemic also. I know what it takes to run a small business. You don't spend more than you bring in because you're going to go out of business. And that's exactly what they're doing. This is an agenda. It is no accident that they are spending so much money. It's only common sense. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. So you would roll back as much regulation as you can.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we need to give incentives to small businesses.
Yeah.
And also remember that capitalism. I'm very grateful because it is what enables us to achieve the American dream. So it's only logical that we would help out the small business who produce income for our community and jobs. So that's only logical that we would do that.
Yes, ma'am. I do think so also. Is there, anything else you want to hit on possibly before we end this over?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yes. America was founded on Christian principles. And if you are a Christian and you call yourself a child of God, it is time to get off the sideline and into the game. We are the mess we're in because we, who call ourselves children of God or Christians, we've allowed it. When they took prayer out of school many years ago, we might have fussed a little bit, but we didn't do enough. And when they introduced sex education, we were shocked, but yet we really didn't do enough. Right now, going to vote is just not enough. Casting that vote is just not enough because of all the voter fraud that we have experienced. You must get involved. You must make sure that your friends and family vote. You got to register people to vote. You got to work the polls. If you can, be a poll worker, not a poll watcher, because as a poll worker, you're able to stop fraud. Run for public office. If you love America, run for public office and teach your children to do the same because the Democrats are doing that. These liberal Democrats are teaching their kids, and they believe that government belongs to them. Let's take America back. If we lose our country, where else can we go? My family suffered to come to a free America. We've got to fight. We've got to fight for this country.
Yes, ma'am.
If we don't, we're going to lose it. I don't want my children to experience what I experienced. I don't want your children to experience it. So we must fight.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about the Christian values and Christian principles that we have, and we didn't really stand up when they came into the schools and they pulled prayer out of schools. I think that followed along the idea that you know, we kind of bought into that tolerance as a virtue, and it's not. You know, love is harsh sometimes, and
that's right.
And we need to turn back to that and less toleration of the enemy.
That's right, and know it exactly that we're dealing with the enemy.
Yep.
And right here, we've got to fight that enemy. We cannot give in. We must win.
Yes, ma'am.
And win we must.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you, Ms. Barber.
Oh, thank you, Sam. So glad to be with you.
Ms. Barber, author for District 7,
Yes, sir.
Congress. Thank you.
you.
And hope is not enough.